Welcome back to another episode of 40 Facts About the 40K Universe. I am your host, Gershwan, and today we're going to be talking about the Space Wolves again as we get into Harek Ironhelm. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. We post Warhammer 40K lore videos every single day. If you have any suggestions, please let me know in the comment section below. And if you enjoy our content, thank our patrons on Patreon. It is because of them that we can do this. Link in the description if you guys want to support us. Now, spoiler alert if you're reading the Battle of the Fang novel or the War of the Fang, because this is going to spoil it for you. But with that said, let's get into 40 facts on Harek Ironhelm. During the 32nd millennium, Harek Ironhelm had risen to command the mighty Space Wolves chapter as its Great Wolf. Aside from the Rune Priest Wormblade, he was the oldest living Space Marine warrior, having led the chapter for 3 standard centuries and served for at least another 100 years before that. Wearing his customary Terminator battle plates, he cut a vast, ominous figure at the head of any war council. His black hair and beard were long and full, the forks braided and sealed with bone totems. The blood of his victims had stained his battle garments for so long that the gray had since shrunk to darkness. Only the curved sheet of metal implants across the right hemisphere of his skull glinted from the firelight of the torches, the legacy of the bloody duel that had earned him his augmetic implants and given him his nickname. Harek Ironhelm looked as joyless and brooding as a specter of the Fenrisian death god Mordecai. Before his elevation to the status of Great Wolf, Harek Ironhelm and his great company bore the badge of the Iron Wolf. As the Iron Wolf bore the mountains of Azahheim upon its back, Harek claimed that the honor of the Space Wolves rested upon the shoulders of his great company. But a great enemy was destined to challenge the Great Wolf, an ancient enemy of not only the Space Wolves, but the Imperium as a whole. After the end of the Horus Heresy, Magnus the Red was determined to have his revenge for the devastation of his homeworld of Prospero, the hands of his former battle brother, Primarch Leman Russ, and his legion. He devised a cunning plan to lure the Space Wolves into a trap in order to enact his final vengeance against them. All enemies of the Allfather created extreme hatred in the sons of Fenris, but Magnus was placed in a different category altogether. It had always been that way with 1,000 Suns. The sagas of the Space Wolves still recounted the sorcerer's betrayal, his superiority, and worst of all, his escape. The Legion had not been destroyed during the burning of Prospero, only crippled, and that shame had hung over the Space Wolves for over 1,000 standard years by the time of the 32nd millennium, staining whatever deeds they had accomplished since then, and marking their failures like trails in the snow. Perhaps if the traitor Magnus had disappeared into the Eye of Terror and never re-emerged, the shame might have been bearable, but he had returned over the following centuries, leaving devastation in his elusive wake. Precision strikes on Imperial worlds had continued, each aimed at retrieving some valuable piece of knowledge. Despite the grievous damage Russ had inflicted on them, the 1,000 Suns still had the potential to launch raids into protected space, and the knowledge of that burned at Ironhelm. It had burned with the Great Wolf for decades, until nothing else seemed important. Despite all of the resources he had devoted to hunting Magnus, the chase had always come up short. There were always signs left behind for them to find. Mocking hints, challenges to catch the originator of the ruin and bring him in. The traitor always left behind a calling card, taunting the wolves and whoever snapped at his heels. After many fruitless efforts to catch up with the 1,000 Suns, Harek became obsessed. He took to searching worlds across the edge of the Eye of Terror itself. Eventually he found what he believed to be the 1,000 Suns' secret base on the world of Gangava and launched a full-scale attack against it. In this he was deceived. For though Gangava was held as a strong garrison of the forces of chaos allied to Magnus, they were but a distraction. As Harek attacked Gangava, the fleet of the 1,000 Suns and their chaotic levies appeared in orbit over Fenris. The Fang was held only by a skeletal force of Space Wolves and their feudal thralls. For 40 days and 40 nights, the 1,000 Suns assaulted the mighty citadel. Bjorn the Fellhand, the most ancient of the Space Wolf's dreadnoughts, was awoken from his long slumber and took charge of the chapter's defenses. Under Bjorn's direction, the Space Wolves fell back to the innermost chambers of the Fang, collapsing the tunnels as they went. Simultaneously, a force of Scout Marines under Hakon Blackwing managed to escape from the citadel and take ship to Gangava, bringing word of the siege to Harek. During the battle that ensued, Ironhelm discovered that some of the renegades were actually Wolf brothers, remnants of the only second founding successor chapter created from the gene seed of the Space Wolves. The chapter was eventually forcibly disbanded by the Inquisition as a result of the rampant genetic instability and the resulting mutations that appeared in the Wolf brothers' Astartes. Though Ironhelm wished to destroy them personally, He had received word of the Thousand Suns treachery being perpetrated against the Space Wolves' homeworld, and so he destroyed the renegades from orbit. To learn more about the Wolf Brothers and their entire outcome, check out our 40 facts on the Wolf Brothers, link above. But the Great Wolf then left behind an escort squadron to ensure that the devastation was complete. Magnus knew that Ironhelm would not refuse combat with the corrupted Astartes. Had news not come of the Battle of Fenris, Ironhelm and his Space Wolves would have hunted the last of the corrupted Wolf Brothers for many days, and the Fang would have fallen in its absence. Overcome with fury and shame at his folly, the Great Wolf immediately took ship to Fenris, bringing the might of the Space Wolves with him. Finally, on the upper slopes of the Fang, the Great Wolf met Magnus in battle on the final day of the siege. The Great Wolf's violence against the sorcerer was stoked by rage, the rage he had cultivated ever since leaving Gangava. The faces of the Wolf Brothers clustered in his mind, still howling their horror and pain. The faces of the slain on Fenris were amongst them too, growling in accusation. The dead had been sacrificed on the altar of his hubris, and now they demanded retribution, and Ironhelm intended to deliver it. The Great Wolf pummeled the injured demon Primarch with his power fist, hitting him again and again, pummeling him against the rocks of the Fang's flanks. Magnus cried out, a cry of pain that had not been heard since Leman Russ himself had destroyed his first body on Prospero 1,000 years before. For a moment, it looked like Magnus had lost the will to fight. He absorbed the punishment, his back arcing against the cliff, but then he began to remember himself. Even now, even after enduring so much, having absorbed so much pain, his essential strength, the core of fire that fueled him, remained untouched. The Great Wolf was driven back towards the edge and beaten down to his knees. The demon Primarch had proved to be too strong for him and slew Harkin, but not before taking a terrible wound himself. Before dying, the Great Wolf took solace knowing that his wolves had already penetrated the Great Hall. His wolves would hunt down every invader in those halls, one by one, driven by remorseless focus that had always been their badge of honor. The fact that they would come too late to save him was unimportant. All that mattered was that the Fang endured. The Thousand Suns quickly began their retreat before the blood-maddened Space Wolves. It was not known by what means the traitor Marines escaped vengeance. Many didn't make it, however, and were killed in the tunnels. Those that did, including most of the traitorous Legion's Chaos Sorcerers, disappeared from Fenris at the same time that their fleet achieved in-system jump points. The Wolf Priests speculate that Magnus himself departed in the same manner, though there were no witnesses to his leaving. When Harkin's body was discovered, there were some who believed that the Great Wolf had indeed killed the demon Primarch. Though the rumors persisted for many years, the wisest amongst the Space Wolves knew that this was not in Ironhelm's power to do such a thing, and prepared for the day when the evidence of the Crimson King's survival would emerge once again. None of the mortal soldiers brought to Fenris by the Thousand Suns were saved by their fleet. When the returning Space Wolves made planetfall, the chaotic troops were slaughtered in the thousands. The fires of their destruction darkened the air of the planet for a month. Harkin's body was taken to the place where he fell fighting the great enemy. Upon the new Great Wolf's orders, a shrine was built there. It became a place of pilgrimage to test the endurance of the faithful and to serve as a memorial to Ironhelm's unwavering devotion to the Emperor. It was also constructed to serve as a memorial to his blindness. Never again would the Space Wolves allow themselves to be drawn into a war not of their own making. This somber crypt serves as a shrine to the memory of the noble Wolf Lord who battled the chapter's gravest foe. Whenever an aspirant rune priest undergoes his ordeal of initiation, he must first make a pilgrimage to the mighty edifice and call upon the spirit of Harek Ironhelm. It is said that the spirit of the fallen Great Wolf appears to warn the aspirant against trusting visions granted by chaos. This was the lesson the Space Wolves learned from the first battle of the Fang, and they would use it to further enhance their skills in the defense of the Emperor's realm. And those were 40 facts on the Great Wolf, Harek Ironhelm. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I think this story really showcases a continuing trend within the lore of the Space Wolves. It always seems that their savagery and their lust for defeating the foe always gets the better of them, and it's always cool to see them come back from almost hitting rock bottom, just because that's really what happens every single time, and it's usually always the same reason that they fall from that. It's usually their own belief that they can take anything on, that usually destroys them. I'm growing to appreciate the Space Wolf lore. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's just this again. Yeah. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys have suggestions for any other character within the 40k universe, let me know in the comment section below and I'll create a video for you. Thanks for listening. Thank our patrons on Patreon. If you guys want to support us, the link is down in the description. It's just $1 a month. And thanks for everything, guys. I will talk to you guys tomorrow. This was Gersh1 with One Mind Syndicate signing out.